Welcome to our first and what I hope to be an annual Small Business Marketing 101 2-day, 2-hour workshop. It's something I've been thinking about for a number of years. I realize there's a lot of people that can make that amazing pizza, but none of us have time to really drill down into how to market yourselves. And so thankfully we have an expert in McLennan Lacey here, our Small Business Development Center liaison, who also now has office hours at the downtown Marion MTC downtown location in Marion Tech, or the old PNC building. What are your days?
Normally the first Monday and third Thursday, but
McLennan will also meet with you at wherever you would want to meet with her, whenever you want to meet with her. She's an incredible resource beyond this class and these 2-day workshops. She's awesome. But of course, we didn't do this alone. We definitely were in partnership with Downtown Marion Inc. And Alan is actually doing triple duty right now, so he's unable to be here. We'll be here for the next, next week to the workshop on the 16th. He'll be out there, and I won't be. So you'll hear more about downtown at that one. And if there's any downtown businesses here, a reminder that the second session, the last 30 minutes, so from 11 to 11:30, there are specifically some downtown business tips as well. But I'm going to quickly hand it over to Lars, Olson from Alluvial Private Wealth, our sponsor for this event. And thank you again for Lars for helping us get this off the ground. And he's going to share a couple of words for you. I'm sure it'll be very inspirational. He always is. And then we'll hand it over to McLennan for the rest of the presentation. So thank you all for being here, and let's get ready to learn.
Thanks very much, Matt. Thank you, McLennan, as well. Look, my name, again, Lars Olson. I'm the president of Alluvial Private Wealth, just located down here in Marion. I'm very passionate about marketing, and I'm thrilled to be part of this program here today. Why do I think marketing is important? Because I think that when wealth and business in Marion in general rises, all ships can rise together. When Marion as a community prospers, right, we all do better. And so I think small business is at the heart of that, and I'm thrilled to be able to be a part of this as well. Briefly, in terms of what I think about when I think about marketing, I think about telling your story, I think about telling your story effectively, and I think about telling your story efficiently. Notice I didn't say sell it, right? Selling sometimes is a dirty word, right? I'm talking about telling your story, right? About who you are and what your business is about. Look, I'll just take 30 seconds. I'll tell you about my business and myself, okay? And I'll tell you about my family. Look, here's my daughter walking in. My daughter's an intern in our business. She's my oldest. My middle son, he's 16 years old. He's got autism. Okay, he is very severely affected, and realistically, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to earn a living in the way that I would want him to be able to support himself. And the laws in America are such that for special needs financial planning, you've got to live in abject poverty with less than $2,000 in your checking account in order to be able to qualify for government benefits. So my wife and I know that we not only have to do financial planning for our own life and our own retirement, I got to plan for 30 years after I'm dead. That is a goal that is too important to leave to chance. And so what my wife and I have done is we've done some planning. We put together a plan, we invest in a disciplined fashion, and we regularly revisit our strategy to make sure that we're on track. I believe that just about everybody has goals in life that are too important to leave to chance. And that's what my business does. It helps people to accomplish goals that are too important to leave to chance. For mine, it's special needs financial planning. For you, it might be to retire in style, to make sure that your money doesn't run out before your time runs out. Maybe it's to help to educate your child. One of my business partners is a first-generation U.S. citizen and a first-generation college graduate. I mean, how cool is that to be able to have that type of a meaningful impact, on a person's life? What's your goal that's too important to leave to chance? That's my story, okay? That's what my business does. My business helps people to accomplish those goals in life that are too important to leave to chance. Now, other businesses do it also very well. There was a shoe company called Tom's, which you may remember, right? What was their deal?
time you buy a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes to someone else.
Precisely right, and they donated over 100 million shoes to those in need. What a phenomenal mission-driven organization that many, many people supported over the years because they were able to tell their story, right? What's your story, right? Marketing is about telling your story. And done well, you tell it effectively and you tell it efficiently. So what does effectively mean? Effectively means you're talking to the right people. Look, we're all time constrained. We only have 24 hours in the day, right? Warren Buffett and the most successful people in the world have only 24 hours a day, but they accomplish a hell of a lot more than I do, right? Because they're more effective with what they're doing, right? So in terms of being effective, who are your target customers? Who are your ideal customers? Michelina is going to talk about it later on today, right? But you want to make sure you're dealing with those folks that you can most meaningfully and positively impact. As far as my own business, the target customers would be folks who have money, right? Big surprise, right? We want to make sure we're helping. We're wealth managers. We want to make sure we're helping. And those who realize that they have a need, right? If they don't realize that they have a need, if they think that they got all their goals set, no problems, what value added do I bring into their life? Let me narrow it down a little bit more, because that's too broad of a category, right? Michelina probably is going to talk about building a profile of who your target customer is. For us, it's somebody between the ages of 55 and 75 who's thinking about all of those major one-time decisions they've got to make in retirement. When do I take Social Security? That's basically an irrevocable decision. If you're working at Honda, you can either take a monthly income or a lump sum. That's a one-time decision, right? When do I quit my high-paying job? These are all one-time decisions that people have got to face, and they might need some financial planning help for, okay? That's my target audience, 55 to 70. In your business, who is your target audience? Who do you want to effectively reach so that you can most profitably grow your business and have the best impact on your potential future customers? And then also we need to make sure that we are marketing in an efficient fashion. We're using the monies wisely that we've got in a marketing budget, and we're getting results in a reasonable and a timely fashion. And Michelina is probably going to talk in the next, either this session or next session, about how to evaluate your marketing process and whether or not it's effective efficient in terms of what it's doing as compared to other strategies. But I'm very passionate about marketing because I think, number one, it's a noble thing to do. You're telling your story. You're explaining about what great things you can do for your customers and for the community and for the world, right? And number two, it's very impactful. It helps you to grow your business. It helps you to improve all of Marion County in terms of wealth and in terms of the community overall. So it's a great program. Thrilled to be a part of it. I apologize I'm not able to stay for the whole program. I've got some family in town, but I look forward to seeing everybody also next week. And Michelina, thank you so much for your words of wisdom coming up. I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thanks,
Okay?
Lars.
Thanks, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming to this session on marketing. And I called it Marketing 101, and after I did that, I thought, you know, that may turn some people off who think, oh, I know a lot about marketing, because we're going to dig kind of deep into marketing, maybe more than you've ever done before. So, and I feel it's important to do this one first, because what you learn about basic marketing helps you in really forming your ad objectives and your online marketing. And can everybody hear me? Because I do tend to talk a little quieter, so I try to project more, but just tell me, hey, I can't hear you or something if I'm starting to speak low. So I'm the Director and Certified Business Advisor for the Small Business Development Center, and we basically help people with their businesses. We provide free business consulting services, and that could mean startup help, marketing help, financial help, putting together a business plan. We basically, if you have a question and you're a business owner, chances are we've got a resource that can help you with that question or that hurdle that you're dealing with. So who am I though? Well, I love to camp and hike. I have a beautiful little granddaughter and my little 13-year-old schnug, Miley. That's some of my passions in life. I'm also very passionate about marketing, so I love doing marketing seminars. I'm not really a numbers person. I've got another consultant that does numbers if that's what you need service-wise. I definitely help with financial projections and stuff, but I'm more of the marketing and helping people develop their strategies. I also have a passion for psychology, and I love that marketing kind of mixes that together. You've got the creative end of marketing, and you've got the psychology behind what drives people to make those purchases. I realized after a consumer behavior class that I love that mix, and so you're going to hear some of those mixes throughout the presentation. And I also have a master's in business, and I've been with the SBDC about 20 years, so I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've seen do's and don'ts, and through their trials and errors, I'm able to help clients even more with kind of knowing that history. So, like Lars had mentioned, you want to tell your story, and telling your story also goes with building a relationship. The backbone of marketing is really making that emotional connection with your target audience, or anybody really. It's no secret that people like to do business with people that they know, like, or respect. There's a lot of reciprocity that goes around too. You do business or you connect with somebody, they're more likely to do business and connect with you as well. And if you can make that emotional connection with your customers, you have a customer for life, which is what we're all trying to achieve, right? And you want to take advantage of networking opportunities. And I probably don't have to tell you guys that because you're here, you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to network with each other. So sometimes I do a session on 30-second elevator speech too. So if anybody's interested, I could send you a little template and work with you on that too as well. Not that anybody did poorly or anything like that, but it's one of those things where, you leave a situation, you're like, shoot, I wished I would have said this or that, So we're going to talk about how people basically buy based on an emotional response. They will often purchase out of emotion and then justify that purchase with logic later on. And we'll get a little more into that. One of the first things to talk about, we're going to discuss persuasion marketing. And of course, it is what it kind of seems like. You're trying to persuade somebody to purchase your product or service. But like Lars mentioned, you don't really want to come off as a salesperson either. We're all kind of privy to spam and being bombarded with marketing messages. We're really smart about filtering that out as consumers. So it is harder as a business these days, as people are savvy about that, to really market yourself and sell yourself without being a salesperson. And if you're an introvert like me, it's even harder sometimes because you don't put yourself out there, but as an introvert, you also tend to listen more, so use that skill to listen to your customers too. And as an extrovert, learn to listen a little bit more maybe. So again, we're mixing this with human psychology to develop techniques to basically market the products and services. Now we want to hit them on a subconscious level, but it's kind of frowned upon to try to manipulate people. We've kind of heard of, I think it was a Coca-Cola ad that had the ice. If you really look closely at the ice, you can see like a sexual connotation in the ice cube or something, sex cells or whatever. That's definitely frowned upon. But, there's other ways of doing that, and you want to hit them at emotional level. You want to connect with them and really relate to that consumer. And, your marketing can be persuasive by being exciting and enticing, getting people excited for your product or your brand. Definitely understanding your customers' needs, because you could be the best marketer in the world. If you're not meeting the needs of your target customers, you're going to fall flat every time. So listening and evaluating and knowing what those needs are. And then also proposing solutions. If you've listened to their needs and you've learned that your customers have certain problems or hurdles, and your company or products or services can help with those problems or solve those problems, you've almost got a guaranteed sale there. And like we've discussed, much of the decision-making of a purchase is on the subconscious level, and then we justify it later. You don't want to just subconsciously sell to them and then they purchase your product or service and then they regret that or have buyer's remorse, because then they probably won't be a long-term customer if they had a bad feeling after they made that purchase. So you want your advertising to evoke the right emotions from your potential target market. So first, you need to research who that target market is and what drives them to purchase, what drives them to make decisions in their life, and find out what's important to them. And persuasion can use a lot of things psychologically to help drive that connotation and that emotional connection. Colors, color palettes, patterns, fonts, these all evoke certain emotions in someone. So, it's all part of your branding package and your logo, and, everything should be kind of cohesive and consistent, so you start building that brand recognition. And the majority of brand awareness is in color use. And a white paper on the psychology behind creating successful email marketing, a guy with the last name Carr says, researchers now believe there is a part of the brain called the fusiform face area, and its job is to process images of faces. Interestingly, it's located next to the part of the brain that also processes motion. Therefore, our brains are kind of wired to generate an emotional response when we see people's faces. So, that's just another little, and it doesn't work for every brand or every company necessarily, but, if you can somehow put in people, especially people that are relevant or relatable to your target market, you're going to already make that connection with your target customers because they're going to relate to that advertisement maybe. Even laying out your website a certain way, we want it to work, and we want to work efficiently and quickly. Because I think it was noted that if your page doesn't load within 3 seconds, people move on to the next page or whatever. So you want to do that stuff too, but you also want to combine some of these things we talked about your branding into that website. So your branding is just an extension of that brand, and it, it feels very much like your storefront, if you have a storefront, or how you market or how you brand yourself. And setting that up in a way that flows so that you take your customers through your website in the way that you would want them to flow on that website, and making sure it's easy to use and flows in the manner that you would like them to, so that the end result is that call to action, whatever that may be, a lead, a sale, a calling you, or whatever the case may be. And basically, all of these communications, be it your website, be it email campaigns, social media campaigns, the objective is to lead them in some manner, normally to purchase, but sometimes marketing has other objectives, and we'll probably get more into that in the second half too, when we talk about social media marketing. And then there's this book that was pretty good about, if you want to know more about persuasion, that's a good book, The Psychology of Persuasion. Of course, we've heard of scarcity. We're dealing with that with gas right now, or not gas, housing. The housing market, there's a scarcity of houses. So a house I was looking at 10 years ago is now $100,000 more. I don't even want to buy a house right now. And so if you do have a product that's a little bit more rare, or if you have limited quantities, yes, you can get a premium price for that product. And you can kind of drive that sale. Of course, we've all heard the buy now, act fast. And of course, people are getting a little privy to that. They understand you're kind of manipulating them a little bit, but that does still sometimes work. Likability, of course, we mentioned that. People want to do business with businesses and people they like and respect. Reciprocity, we've discussed that too. You do business with others that maybe do business with you. So, look at the chamber list of businesses, look at your downtown area, and consider doing business with those small businesses versus Amazon or, outside resources, because you're also helping your community too. Social proof, of course, if our friends like something, we're more likely to go try that item. There's also social influencers, of course. They may, you could pay a social influencer to help market your brand on Instagram or something. They've got people that, there's different levels of social influencers. Maybe they're famous, maybe they're just Instagram famous, but sometimes that can be, enough to make someone want to purchase, or authority figures. That's why in marketing, if you've got something that's kind of scientific that you're trying to sell, having a scientist or having a doctor or somebody, the white lab coat that demonstrates they have authority or knowledge on the subject or something. And commitment and consistency. You want to be committed. So many times, especially when we get into social media, Facebook in general, people just get tired of making posts. I get it. You got lack of time. And if you look at my Facebook, I don't do what my Facebook does. I think Facebook hates me, though. It doesn't let me do anything with my SBDC page. It thinks I'm a terrorist or something. I don't know. But you really want to be consistent in everything you do, because if you kind of drop off the face of the earth, the customers will actually wonder, is that business still in business? Or, if they're doing some research and checking you up before they come to your store or whatever the case may be. So that guy we had mentioned before, Nick Carr, on the colors. We've got different colors here that have different connotations. Like black, is more connotated with luxury style brands. Yellow is seen as a cheerful, optimistic color. Orange is enthusiastic and lighthearted, but also, has a call to action connotation to it because of, I believe Amazon uses that for the add to basket. Blue is associated with sense of intelligence and, a meditative, sedative feeling.
Can't really see that on this paper, is all blurry.
Oh yeah, that's why I figured that out. And you'll all get a copy of this after the second session, the whole presentation.
Okay,
its
in our
entirety.
email?
Yeah.
Okay, good, that makes it. I'll sit there and take 50 pictures.
Yeah, and so you'll see that with security companies and banks. Blue, ironically, is also not a color that restaurants probably want to use for their plates, because it actually turns people off from eating a little bit for some reason. So purples, it's more elegant and mysterious because it's a color that came to late and it wasn't always available, especially in the older days where, it was a dye that was hard to come by. So it still has this exotic, elegant, mysterious connotation. Pink, of course, has a feminine connotation, softness and tranquility. So you'll see it in a lot of baby products or romantic products. Red is urgency, energy, possibly danger. You'll see that on clearance sales or anytime they want to get you to really stop, and we'll bring up another company that uses red in a different way too. Green, of course, we think of money, so we think of wealth. Also calming and harmony, so you'll see it in like spas and stuff to kind of make you feel at ease. And it's also apparently the easiest color for the eye to process, so it's often used in shops to calm and relax. So, you see that in Starbucks, in a lot of their marketing. So there is a lot to colors, and if you're just starting out on your branding, you really should put some thought into this, because, we all have our favorite colors and whatnot, but we should really put colors into our marketing that connotate what we're trying to sell too. And evidence suggests that some colors, especially red, create feelings of arousal and stimulate appetite. So, of course, the red, yellow arches of McDonald's and other restaurants that typically use those colors, you'll see that a lot. And they suggest that products, in a picture like an advertisement that are presented against a backdrop of blue are better liked than when the red background is used. Women are also more drawn to brighter tones and are more sensitive to the subtle changes of colors. And colors can just elicit strong emotional reactions. And some of these are general. Some of these are going to be biased based on that person's personal experience or feelings about that color too, obviously. But of course, there are some similar connotations across the board. So, you want to make sure your packaging and branding fits in with whatever you're trying to sell. And this is kind of a demonstration of why that's kind of important. We definitely have these logos like these around here I mean, they don't even have to put their name there. We know what those are. And they're very simple. You know, KISS, remember that in branding and marketing these days. Keep it simple, stupid. I'm artistic in some ways. I love the intricate designs and logos of, I don't know, the 70s, 80s. They were a little bit more cooler. These days, they're very simple lines. And that's good from a standpoint of a small business owner who has a limited budget, because the more intricate, the more colors, that's more money you're going to spend on your marketing materials, and it can be challenging, especially if you're trying to do a lot of this in designing your own advertisements yourself. It can be harder to use these more complicated logos on your marketing materials too. So, you know, as you're building your brand or redeveloping a brand, you know, keep it simple, and just recall some of these more memorable brands and what makes them memorable. You know, obviously certain colors will elicit certain responses. Of course, we can't see this pattern without thinking about Burberry. Even certain fonts, you know, sometimes it's just the font that makes you think of that company. And the color red. Does anybody know what store this is? Yeah, most women in the room will know that's Target, right?
We know from the balls in front of
Yeah.
it.
And that's something else we're going to pick out here. So those ballards, they serve a purpose. I mean, the store will tell you it's to avoid people from driving into our store. I mean, every store has them, but Target actually uses the big red ball shaped, and that's purposeful. You know, red is purposeful in their marketing. They want you to slow down before you even get to the store. This store is the greatest example of a store that you go in for a few items, simple grocery items or whatever, and you come out with way more than what you went in for, like almost always. And that's planned on their part. The whole store is set up in a way to make you purchase more. Placement of items in the store. You know, of course, in most stores, we put the milk in the back or those common items in the back, so you're forced to walk. Sometimes they'll even put sale items or things on end caps to make you stop and look. They also have that little section with all the little $1 and $5 trinkets, and you think, oh, I'm going to buy this stuff. $20 later, you're like, what the heck? Sometimes the placement of stores can be a little manipulative. And kind of make you mad, especially if you're a mom trying to get your kid in and out of the store quickly, because, you know, they conveniently put those toys and candy at the checkout aisle, so your kid's whining for them because you avoided the toy aisle. You knew best not to go to the toy aisle, but they still get you. Or the cereals, the sugary cereals. They're all kind of lower on the shelves, you'll notice. The healthier cereals, they're at the top. Because they know the kids will whine and cry, give me this cereal. And of course, cereal, there's some ethical gray areas there, because cereal companies will put the toys in the sugary cereals or the Happy Meal with the toys. There's a lot of back and forth on whether that's ethical or not. But it's all a manipulation. I mean, even, you know, Joe Cool, the camel, they're not supposed to use that symbol anymore because it makes the cigarettes seem cool. But the new cool is, of course, the vapes with the cool colors and the cool flavors and stuff. So there's always something where we're trying to manipulate sales. So what does this mean to you? As a retail owner in particular, you can follow some of these things, because Target actually, they benchmark a lot of their stuff too. They want to have this luxury appeal, but at a more value added price. So they benchmark themselves after, like, Nordstrom's, you know, how they set up their store and stuff, how they set up their beignets are actually modeled after higher end stores. That's why they have fashion designers to kind of appeal to your fashion side. Their deals and discounts, they could just, you know, tell you this sale is going on, but they don't necessarily do that. They think they get more better results when they make it like a game, where you got to kind of find the deals, and then you feel like you want a treasure hunt or something, I guess. Of course, we all know and they do this too, the prices ending in .99. There's this psychological thought that it doesn't cost as much as, you know, $9.99 sounds better than $10, I guess. So we're just constantly being bombarded with this stuff and subconsciously being led to buy more with our senses in particular. So higher end companies will use sensory marketing. You go down to probably New York City and go into some of the shops there. New York City or any of the bigger cities are used as, first of all, marketing test sites for these larger big box retailers. So you'll see a lot of new ideas being tested. Of course, we see some of that around here. If you've been to Sam's Club or Costa's, you see them passing out the food. They've learned that if they do that, they increase the sale on those items by 20 to 30%. Part of that is reciprocity, because, okay, I got something for free from you, so I feel obligated to buy something. Others is you tasted it and you obviously liked it, so you want to take that home with you. So, you know, if you have a product that you can taste, consider doing taste testings of that once in a while. Of course, touch. And, you know, these are all areas, normally we say you can't compete with Walmart, which you can't. Don't ever try to compete on price because you'll lose every time. You don't have that economy scale. You're not the big box retailer bully that Walmart is, so you'll never win against them. So you got to beat them at a different game, and you got to beat Amazon at a different game. Senses. People still want to come in and experience the shopping experience, and they want to touch, feel, taste, see. You know, they want to do all those things before they make purchases oftentimes. So touch, you know, especially if it's soft or has a pleasant experience, you know, we see that in a lot of t-shirts now. They claim, oh, they're super soft, and yeah, you put them on and you're like, you don't want to take them off type of feelings. And apparently from a psychological level, it increases the feeling of ownership over that product if you've touched it and it's in your hand. Of course here, I don't know if you've noticed the music playing in different stores. Sometimes it's just they play basic music. There's no psychological reasoning why they're playing that background music. When it's purposely put in there, though, the sounds are to set you up for a certain type of mood and frame of shopping. Restaurants, they don't always use the soft, slow music. Maybe they use more upbeat music because they want to move you faster through that process. The more people they can get into seats, the more money they're going to make. You know, so a lot of times you often see that they're not even pushing desserts as much as they used to because they kind of want to get you out of the door so they can get the next table seated. But sometimes, if you know some of your shoppers are having anxiety in your shop, one example of this is, I believe it was Radio Shack. I think they were in a New York City location. They evaluated their customers and realized the female shoppers were feeling a little anxious when they go in there. They didn't want to be oversold something. You know, they didn't understand the technology of what they were necessarily buying. They just knew they needed a printer or whatever like that. And they didn't want to go in and be oversold on something that they didn't necessarily need, or they just felt anxious about that whole situation. So they started having music that reduces anxiety. They even pumped in certain smells. I believe it was vanilla, because it's a calming smell. And they tested and evaluated customers after doing that for a while and realized that actually helped them feel more at ease. So those things do work. And you'll see smells oftentimes in high-end hotel chains. They've got their signature scents that they pump into the air to make you feel, I guess, at home or, you know, comfortable. Of course, visually, we are visual creatures, so that's a big one too. Everything that we see from the marketing to even inside your store, it should match what you're trying to sell. Don't try to sell high-end products in kind of a dingy environment or something. And smell's actually a big one. It influences 75% of the emotions we feel every day. So that's a simple one you could input if you do have a brick and mortar location. And this, of course, is the marketing piece in itself because it comes from a company that makes those things that pump smell into the air, Aero West, I guess. but they're focusing on smell because they think smell's the most closely linked to memory and emotion. You know, certain smells take us back in time sometimes, for good or bad. So I mean, we're going to have our biases on certain smells too, but there are certain similar connotations with smells as well. And it has dollar value to you because in the presence of scent, customers spend on average 20% more. And their scented areas are also perceived to be more higher end and luxurious. So if you're selling that kind of item or service, you know, consider adding that into your brick and mortar. And it can entice your customers to stay up to 44% longer. And it improves the mood by up to, because 75% of our emotions are due to smell, and pleasant scents improve your mood by 40%. So we don't want to deal with cranky customers. So maybe if you're in a position where you know you're going to deal like an organization that deals with cranky people all day, maybe this can kind of be used to calm your clients down. And from a productivity standpoint for your employees, it's known to, certain scents are known to improve productivity in the workforce and increase their mood and alertness. So we all kind of need that when we have employees. Okay, so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the 5 P's of marketing. It's kind of standard for marketing. Of course, there's a different mix. Some say there's 7 P's, some say, yeah. We're going to talk about 5 of them: product, price, promotion, place, and people. Of course, your product, we've already kind of talked about the appearance and packaging and how that's important, you know, and it should be functional for what it's supposed to, obviously, but also be packaged in a way that tells your brand story. The price is very important. Most of my clients that do handmade items in particular, or you know, services even, they oftentimes sell themselves short more than charge too much. And price is a sensitive thing these days, I realize, because we're all being nickeled and dimed to death, and we're all making less and less. Yeah, it's kind of, but you don't want to sell yourself short because of that, because in the long run, you're going to devastate your business. I see that devastating businesses probably more than anything. So being on top of what your costs are for those products and services, making sure that if you're performing a service that you're getting the time paid that you put into that, and considering the fact that you have a lot of overhead expenses too that have to be accounted into that price, not just the cost of your inventory and your time. And you know, how you set up payment arrangements, accounts receivables can be a nightmare for people, so you know, having certain things in line with that. And you could either do the strategy of price matching, which there's some back and forth on that, like, well, you should just keep stock of what your competitors are selling for and always be lower, or try to be, you know, competitive in that pricing arena. Or, you know, you could tell your customers will price match or whatever. There's some back and forth on what's more effective there. And then if you're, you know, deciding if you're going to offer credit terms. Promotion, of course, we're talking all about that in different ways: advertising, sponsorship, and the message. What kind of media channels you're going to use to market yourself. Place, you know, how you distribute your product, where it's going to be located on a shelf. Big companies like General Mills and stuff, you know, they have requirements when they go into Myers or Walmart's where they're going to be placed on the shelf. If you make a product, it's very hard to get in a valuable spot on that shelf. You just don't have that same power as those bigger companies, unfortunately. Location's important for retail and restaurants too. Being even within the same town, there are areas in your town that are better suited for businesses, certain businesses, than others. If you're selling more high-end stuff like a boutique and you're located in a really run-down little shopping plaza or something, you're going to hurt yourself in the long run because people are going to connotate you with not so nice and not so affluent, unfortunately. So, you know, place is very important with your business. Just don't take the cheapest place you can find, you know, really make sure that that place aligns with the strategy of your business. You know, of course, people. Your business should always be focused on people and not profit. you focus on people, you're going to be more successful. You know, your customer service, the employees that you have. And if you find yourself not being good with customer service or not being good with dealing with people, especially negative people, you may have to hire somebody for customer service for your business, because that could make or break. I have seen bad customer service from a business owner kill a business. You know, you hear customers repeatedly say that they're in a bad mood, or you don't want that out of your employees to be performing poorly. So training them and giving them the right tools and empowering them to make decisions so that they can help your business. Okay, so we just said the focus of marketing is people, not product or profit. So, you know, we want to target certain people though, because not everybody's going to be a customer of ours. And with limited, bootstrapped marketing budgets, we want to make sure we're spending our money in the most efficient, effective manner. And, you know, we talked about the marketing mix and how that influences how people purchase. Even social-cultural influences, so knowing your target customer and knowing what influences their purchases, their situational influences, you know, what type of purchase it is, the frequency of purchase, the social surroundings and physical surroundings, if that's the case for brick and mortar, and their previous experience with purchasing that item and what maybe anxieties they have over that. Psychological influences, you know, what drives them to make those purchases, what they perceive your brand to be, their attitudes, and, you know, how they are motivated. And so there's always a lot of influences for the consumers on why they make certain purchases. And what you're trying to do is help them make that purchase and hopefully make the purchase from you. So a lot of people just want to jump right into marketing and say, well, I'll put this billboard up or I'll put this advertisement out, and then they pray and hope for the best. It's not always the best strategy to use, especially if you have limited money, because you want to always be looking at what is the return on that marketing investment? How much am I really paying for that marketing? And sometimes the marketing can cut into your profits big time. So you want to make sure that you're spending your money and targeting the right people. But you say, oh, but if I target, my market condenses down less. Yes, it does. But those people that you're targeting are more likely to purchase from you than trying to say, oh, I'm going to target everybody and hope for the best. And that becomes really important with like social media marketing, which we'll get into in the next topic, because you know, you pay per click, or you pay, you know, a daily budget like on Facebook for your ads, and you want to make sure you're targeting correctly so that that money just isn't a waste. So everything that you do, the designing, the pricing, the distributing and positioning, is all geared towards what is that target market and how do they purchase and how am I going to attract them. So there's different target market segments, and we segment our customers in different ways. So, you know, this is how you're going to, like Lars had mentioned, develop that persona. You're developing that persona on these different segments. Basically, segmentation is identifying and describing these market segments. And then you're going to target by evaluating those segments and determining which of those segments to go after. And then positioning your product and utilizing that marketing mix that will create a competitive advantage for you in the marketplace over the people that sell similar items. So we'll go into these segments directly. Because I will say, I do get a lot of people that say, well, everybody will be wanting my product or service. And I got to kind of argue with that, because that's not necessarily true. There's always an alternative that person can do. If it's, you know, purchasing from you or another competitor, or just not purchasing from you at all, or, you know, making their item at home, or, you know, there's different alternatives and competition to what you do. And you may have multiple target markets, like maybe you target Generation Z, or maybe you target baby boomers. But how you market to those two segments are going to be kind of completely different. So you want to know who you're marketing to, because your marketing efforts are going to always be more successful when they're more targeted towards niche markets.
The riches are in the niches.
I like it. So the first one that's kind of easier to determine is your demographic segment. You know, because we have measurable statistics we could look at in your area. We could look at Marion County and figure out what the average family size and structure is, what their income, age ranges, all that information you can find through your local library or the census.gov or Demographics Now or any of those kind of demographics that kind of let you know. Especially if you're starting a business, you want to make sure that your target market that you think would more likely purchase your product or service is going to be represented in that geographical area you're locating your business in. So it's definitely important to consider that in the very beginning. But there's another segment to that that's a little bit harder to find data on sometimes. The psychographic segment, the attitudes of the people in that target area. And maybe if you have an online business, you don't have to worry about the geographic area. You can find a geographical area that represents the target you're trying to target. So it may not be your local area. You know, because everybody has different attitudes. You know, city folks have different attitudes than country folks. City folks are typically not willing to drive long distance for their products and services because maybe they don't even have a car, so they walk to these places. Whereas here in more rural areas, you know, it's nothing for some of us to drive to Columbus to get what we need because sometimes, you know, we don't have the stores here that offer those things. You know, a farmer's going to have a different perspective than a business person. So you got to know who you're targeting and what drives them to make purchases. Interest. This is where Facebook becomes important, and we're going to talk a lot about Facebook, but we're going to talk about good and bad aspects of Facebook next week. But, you know, if you know the interests, you could really use that on some of those social media marketing platforms because they gather a lot of information on the people that use those platforms so that you can really be effective in your targeted marketing, especially if you're trying to focus on a certain niche of your product or service or focus on a certain target market customer that you think is more likely to purchase that. You can figure out what their interests are, what their loves are. Personality, you know, introverted versus extroverted, that's important, especially as your employees or customer service personnel should be able to read your customers a little bit to determine if they are want help throughout the buying process, or maybe they just want to be left alone through the buying process. Values, what do they value? Are they health conscious, or do they not care and they're going to eat all the bad foods? You know, and knowing what sector you're trying to target and what really gets them to purchase. So use-based, of course, we want to think about what the frequency of use is. For like a furniture company that sells couches, I should hope you don't have to replace your couch all the time. So maybe every 5, 10, maybe even 20 years for some of us before we replace that couch. So furniture stores, they have to work really hard to, you know, get you to purchase. And maybe they sell other items that you can come in, like home decor, which is more, you know, you can maybe purchase home decor on a more frequent basis or something. You know, is it a need or a want? If it's a basic need, then it's a little easier to sell than, say, just a want, because you need to kind of drive them to purchase that want from you versus somewhere else. Whether it's seasonal or, you know, social or recreational, business or industrial, you know, there's other, you know, how you categorize that person. And, you know, if you're talking about wants versus needs, it's worth mentioning, considering Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, at the very bottom are basic needs of food, shelter, having a place to sleep at night, and then we go up to safety and, you know, ensuring the safety and wellness of our family and financial well-being. Then, you know, love and being loved and feeling belong. Then you rise up to self-esteem and then eventually self-actualization. So you got to know kind of where your customer's at on this Maslow hierarchy of needs too, because that kind of dictates what they're willing to purchase, or financially where they stand even as well, and what's important to them. So the benefits segment, of course, as a consumer, we're always like, what's in it for me? We've got limited money to spend on things, especially now, so you have to be really crafty with this, and really know your customer. Is luxury important to them? If luxury is important to them, price is of no concern. Actually, a low price will deter the luxury buyer because they connotate quality with price. Thriftiness, that's on the opposite spectrum, obviously. They're going to be more value conscious, and they're going to, but again, it's hard to really compete on price. So, and whether, they're valuing comfort from food, or if they're valuing the nutritional and health value from food. A lot of the restaurants that serve 1,000 and 2,000 calorie meals, they have, obviously they're not targeting those health conscious customers, and that's okay. They're focused on one customer, and that kind of helps them be successful because they're not trying to be everything to everybody. Not to say you shouldn't offer certain things for a little of everybody, but don't make it a focus of your business. And of course, again, the easier one is probably geographic segment, because you already kind of know if you're going to sell more on a national basis or more on a local basis. And if you're starting a business, sometimes it's easier to start with one location and then branch out to other regional areas. Because it's hard to focus on one large area at once. You need to develop little pockets, especially if you're providing a service too, and gas prices these high. You don't want to be running yourself ragged and running your mileage bill up either. So you got to be very effective and efficient in targeting. So now we're going to take just a few minutes to do, let's see, what time is it, first of all? Okay, so, all right, we're going to do this worksheet, and then I'm going to give you guys a little break. So, pass this around. So, we talked about these different target markets and how to differentiate your own customers. So, I want you to think about, and again, we mentioned that you may have multiple target markets for your business, but think about the one that is ideal, the one that's going to really drive sales for your business. Like in a perfect world, if you could get these customers to come into your store, what does their persona look like to you? And this is helpful in that you will, when you get ready to do any type of marketing, it'll be a lot easier because you'll have these already kind of laid out for you.
Yeah, a lot of times we have different products for different markets.
Just focus on maybe one of them then. Everybody get one?
when we all look for those clients.
I'm not sure, what are they asking when you're like this? Is this like us or just for other people?
You're just thinking about a specific persona of maybe a customer that you feel would be most relevant to your business. You know, and obviously you're going to have different target markets, but think of like the best, the ones that are more likely to purchase your services. And you kind of develop a persona on them. And I realize some of this is harder because some of your customers are a little more generic. And in honesty, it's hard to do this in a general manner. If you're thinking about a certain marketing objective that you have, sometimes that's helpful. Like, what are you trying to market?
I do a little bit of everything. I do Wi-Fi, healthcare.
Okay, so maybe focus on one of those services and what you feel the best customer would be for that, like a persona, like what attributes that customer has.
You just spam likely spam. I wonder how many of those are spams.
Would anybody like to share what they came up with on theirs?
What was that?
Would anybody like to share what they came up with on theirs?
I just went to an event last night and they were telling about target market for one of the sales, one of the cruise products and stuff. And I came home, I thought it was hilarious because the cruise line is a new one out and it's more of a boutique and a more upscale one. And they said they did all this. They said and that's the best part about my thing is a lot of times they know what their product is, what their focus is and stuff. So they said that their best one was somebody who travels regularly, someone who combined income in the family of 248,000 or more. They go 3 trips a year of $50,000 or more. They're 45 to 65. I know it's not a high end one.
So I think
It's not what I'm going to sell. I'm just telling you that was just what they had, the whole customer for their target all written out for you. So if you were going to market to that, and there certainly are those people in Marion because I see Ferraris in the golf course parking lot. So there's those people here. They just might not be my client right now, but I thought it was interesting that someone had it all down. That they didn't talk about kids. They usually travel alone and some of the other things. So they had it all lined up, and so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
I can share ours.
Sure.
Our typical market was often plant managers or business owners for our cleaning business. Usually it's going to be 40 plus because you don't typically get into that position until approximately that age. They are often white males, but when we're looking at HR representatives, then it's usually a woman. That's just kind of generally what we've seen. A lot of times they have a bachelor's degree or higher, but if we're looking at more of a smaller business, then it's going to be more of like trade secrets that they know, maybe not necessarily any formal education. They could be city or rural. A lot of times they live more in the city, but then these factories, aren't like right in the city, so they're kind of more rural. A lot of the personalities that we have come across are more introverted on the side that choose our business. And what they're kind of looking for is the convenience, along with that health consciousness. They want the convenience of not having to chase after a cleaning company They want the convenience of not having to train them. Because if you have your in-house, a lot of times you have to, train them, hire them, watch after them, things like that. And then if you have a cleaning company that's maybe missing the mark, then you'll have to do similar things to your in-house. You'll have to chase after them and things like that. So that's the convenience. And then the health conscious is that, we're cleaning the place. It reduces a lot of the sickness in the building and things like that. Usually their consumption rate is going to be daily, but sometimes it's weekly or bi-monthly.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I'd like to share, with me, anybody qualifies for me, because if you haven't noticed, all the energies and everything's going up right now. So my company helps people save money on businesses and residential on their bills they're currently paying now. Time's happening right now, it's just crazy, so and plus anybody that we help, a child gets fed in the local community that they pay their bill in, and it's free. We just do a lot, so I really, anybody I can help out. We don't have a certain one, but we also help with time freedom and creating that residual income to where you can duplicate yourself. So if, God forbid, we ever get shut down again, you have extra stream of income coming in, and you're not strapped for money. So it's like a backup plan. And to me, we pay all these bills anyway, so why not get paid off your own bills and save money on your bills? Because right now, times are hard, people are struggling, and anything we can do to help out the community with the children getting fed makes a big
That's
difference.
a good story to add to all your marketing too, I'm sure you do. But
Yes, I mean, it's just making a difference. So we just help people save money and make extra money on top of it.
And I would challenge you that if you're creating a specific advertising piece, that you would maybe be a little bit more focused, but I get that you do cover like general.
We cover a lot of stuff: healthcare, identity theft, energies, Wi-Fi, security systems. We do it all. So yeah.
Well, thank you guys for sharing. If we could just take a little 5-minute break, if you have to use the restroom or just get up and stretch, feel free to do that, and we'll be back. Nope, you can keep that, because that could be something you use. I always encourage people before they start doing their advertising campaign to really hone in on this.
But not too late.
Oh, okay.
Right around the corner to the left, you'll see the left.
Right.
You had, no, I just want to see if you knew how to shut that off, because I think it's free over there. Thank you. I looked, I didn't see a power switch, I seen a high or a low. Thank you. And
Second half, I have a little bit more to go over.
You're out of line.
That's why I kind of left that, because I'm going to probably get into a little bit more of next week, because we've got so much to cover in the following
And you
week
might be able to
too.
incorporate some of Wendy's Lightenthal stuff, possibly.
Yeah, I need to connect with her and see.
I can make that work, expand that guy out. I like it.
I wanted to just make sure I didn't have so much that I couldn't fill in a two-hour piece too.
Right, and I kind of, the idea of doing all this, like install with Delaware, one-on-one, they have a 6-day, 2-hour. And I was like, that seems, but somehow, so I took almost all the topics, and that's what I kind of fed to you, to kind of see if we can build that out. So I'm not exactly sure.
The attention spans are short these days.
I know. It's like, and I never sat in those, so I don't know. But I felt like, okay, if they can fill 6 days worth, we can do 2 days.
I mean, we could definitely, because some of these topics, I mean, you spend weeks talking about your college course or something, so you could definitely make it longer.
There's the social media stuff, there's so many, there's so many platforms that can be hit on and stuff, and so I thought that could cover, definitely the 2 hours. But yeah, so we'll just start on the, a little bit, and I'll let you drive that, of course. So great job.
Thank you.
And, yeah. So I was gonna maybe pause the recording, but I'll clean it up afterwards, so let's let it keep going.
Okay.
There's a couple people that are on there.
Okay.
Right now.
Did you start from scratch? Or did you buy?
Hey.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's where we're getting. I mean, we also have like, you know,
They started with cruising first, but now they expanded into everything, so they've got special deals. No one else can get.
Yeah.
You guys serve
We have.
no, we can't.
Yeah. But they're public.
Our time.
I mean, my kids like buying
Completely different than anything.
Yeah, but that's.
They'll have to try that.
By the look of what we've got,
You know,
way
it's just
different. We're 30, 46.
Yeah.
We still building.
Yeah, and you can turn away and say to people,
Yeah.
you're
We'll have
not, we're
some
not.
little ones for the people that but for the most part, our folks still think it's a couple of things. Because I fell in love with the military. We moved back from Texas to Ohio and tried to find people. So we started it off. Yeah, we're hoping, our goal is to be open by October.
What did I put on here?
So the first one is like
100 and, 200
yeah, there's a lot of things that
download the app. We're doing good right now, so.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's like, you think of that in the context of the ad you're doing a lot of times too.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's gonna differ depending on who you're trying to target or whatever.
I'm actually gonna take some.
I'll go right ahead. I'm gonna
Because I'm gonna-
include that when I send the presentation out, extra copies too.
Okay.
Travel protection.
Where
She has travel.
I don't care if I could send my cards out.
Okay.
No, go right ahead.
I've seen it.
I thought, that's just, they don't have any.
Maybe you can help me with something.
I did that, that's gonna be,
Picked up.
that they're gonna have 20 people. Sure.
Well, my manager, she's my best friend, she's
She's from.
What's that guy name called again?
Stories all that.
I just, red beans and rice, for example, here's, our, shrimp and grits, I actually made that for dinner last night. Crawfish bread.
So are you like a chef?
Yeah, when I'm trying from the military, I go back to school. So I wanted to say I was classes in the I've always loved it. So I went back to school full time.
Yep, thank you. And if you haven't already, please sign in over here.
Not that it's necessary, but I wanted to cover it. I mean, I grew up, like I said, I remember.
Did you do
I did my last few years, I was the executive chef for the Olson.
Marion or something too,
So I went there, Jordan. Then last year,
Oh, no,
So a lot of research, so I'm just a lot of. They probably. A lot of things.
My daughter is international.
Oh, yeah.
She does, she went to training for it. It's ridiculous. My husband's a farmer, so now she's always like a big money on it.
Oh, that,
It's hard, though. Sorry.
It is.
It's like, there's just, having all the bigger, like, it's been
Yeah, we lease, so I get that, but I was with those people. I usually start for small business, if you're spending more than $75.
I told her she has to live with it.
Some people are not, I just want to. I walk into driving school, this is a big deal, this isn't my place, and I started talking to her, and I said, well, then your place was hard. And I love that.
buys new furniture.
The COVID thing, I mean, it's our first
Yeah.
Then they charge me $100 for marketing. And I said,
Like I said,
yes.
Okay, I think we have everybody back, so if, we've had a lot of discussions, and I want to just take a few minutes to kind of share. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments, or, you know, they want to share maybe something that worked or didn't work in their business, you know, things that they've been pondering? Feel free. No comment? So,
What have you heard of, any like specific examples from the folks you work with? Is there anything that comes to mind?
you know, the biggest thing that I see is that we're all so busy, and especially now with labor shortages, and you know, we and our employees are doing the work of 2, 3, 4 people at a time. As business owners, you wear many different hats, and I understand that. I appreciate that. And marketing takes time. You have, obviously, sometimes figuring this out can be a challenge. It can be overwhelming, especially if you have multiple products and services. It's like, okay, where do I even begin? How do I even target? You know, it can be challenging. The best advice I have is, you know, I have a calendar. I'm old school. I put it in a book. I have to write things down. I don't write it down, I won't do it. You have to schedule time for the things that are a priority to you and your business. And marketing should always be a priority. A lot of times when businesses are getting loans, they don't always get all the money they want or whatever. And then the marketing is what goes to the wayside. Because they think if I build it, they'll come. But this isn't the field of dreams for most businesses. There's some that they'll get business regardless. Restaurants in general, you know, everybody loves food, so there's always going to be this influx of people visiting your restaurant initially, but how are you going to keep them coming back? You know, these are things to think about. And feel free to reach out to the SBDC, because we can help you feel less overwhelmed. And I usually just have people focus on little pieces. You know, you tackle things little piece at a time, like anything else that's a challenge in life. So I just want to share that.
I think we should take a pause. Obviously, we're going to do it later, but are your services, what's the cost for your services?
SBDC provides free consulting services. Rarely anything we do will have a charge. Occasionally certain trainings will, but
Do you have mentors in the local area?
myself as the primary full-time certified business advisor in the area, but I consult with a group of other consultants, and they've got experts in QuickBooks, helping build and kind of improve websites, basic websites, no HTML coded ones, I don't think. They can even help you with rebranding, with developing a graphic design logo, or we even have some legal consultants. So we do have some help for you. That is also free. SBDC pays for those consulting charges. So yeah, like I said, if you have a hurdle, you're dealing with something that's overwhelming you, seek us out and we'll help you build a strategy that works with you and your business. So we had a little bit of time, and I know next week we're going to be going over so much stuff. I was kind of hoping we'd have a little extra time to go a little bit further in our presentation, because technically this is kind of the end of day one. But I kind of want to start talking about something that's a little basic in nature for everybody, and that's building a website. Most businesses should have a website because online marketing is so important. You know, having an online presence, even beyond Facebook, for most businesses is important. And it's not just okay to be online either. You have to make sure that that website operates in a manner that's going to keep the interest of your clients and keep them engaged and keep them from flipping to the next website in the list of the drop-down menu on Google or whatever they're using to search. You want it to be responsive too, which means you want it to look good and look cohesive and consistent on all channels that your customers can be viewing it on, either their personal computer, their tablet. Most of the time they're viewing it on their cell phones these days. And if you don't make your website responsive, Google actually kind of cuts you out of the search engine results a little bit, because their job as a search engine is to ensure that the results that they show are the most relevant to the people searching for that. So they're getting, and of course, trying to figure out Google's algorithms or Facebook algorithms, you'll never figure it out. People spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. And I think oftentimes they do it in a way that, well, we'll get more into that later in next week. So your social media is in presence, and like we said, you want to be consistent on that social media channel. So, you know, there's so many different channels you can use. You got to focus on the ones that your target customers probably use more because you have limited time. You want to check that your website and your social media channels are all listed in all the free areas that they can online. Online directories, Google directory, Yelp directory, Bing directory, you know, if you can put yourself out there. But having said that, you know, you may want to have a place to write all this down. I do have an online marketing guide that I should shoot out to you guys, because it kind of helps you go through this list, and you put, if it has a username or password, to log into that to change or edit, because we take vacations, we close our shop down, we change our hours. The worst thing to have happen.
Go back to that first one. We like that first one, don't we? We take vacation.
Yes. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're actually going to be there when your hours dictate you're going to be there, because there's nothing worse to a consumer to show up to a shop and it be closed when your Facebook and your Google's saying it's open.
Please tell that to my daughter.
Does she own a business?
She just opened up a store, and she just opens up when she wants to, and I keep telling her, you've got to have set hours.
Yeah,
Don't listen.
you piss off somebody once, they're not gonna come back. That's
I
just-
tried to get her to come here, I'm just so busy.
Because people are busy. They don't wanna waste their time going places that are closed. And some people will travel to come to your business, out of town, and they'll see you online and,
I had somebody that actually was here for a funeral, and he needed his dad's car cleaned. He's from Idaho. Didn't think I was gonna take a call from Idaho for a detail in town, but I picked up the phone, and because I picked up the phone.
yep, you just never know. So be consistent in your hours and in anything you do on your, be consistent in posting so it looks like you're actually active and engagement. We'll talk a lot about that next week. And there's all kinds of review sites, especially if you have a business that is particularly reviewed. And unfortunately, some of my clients are like, well, I'm kind of scared to put myself out there because, yeah, there's going to be some people that take their bad day out on you, and then they maybe leave a bad review. It's how you address it. You don't want to come off as argumentative with your customer in store or online. Address it once. Don't address it more than once because the negative actually shows up, in Google searches and stuff like that, but you do want to address it. And you want to try to make it right to that customer, however that is. Just don't ignore it. Don't ignore messages. Don't ignore comments. Show that you're engaged and that you actually care. Because even if there's a problem, if your future customers see that, oh, it looks like they fixed this problem, they're not going to care necessarily about that bad review because they know there's, I hate to use this, Karen's, since my mother-in-law's name, she hates that. But there are people out there who just like to complain. And really take advantage of getting your business on Google. They've got a neat little tool, and you can even have track it through analytics and stuff, because that puts you on their directory and enables you to do advertising and stuff. They'll oftentimes send you free advertising packages that you can take advantage of and test. But really, this all leads you to an effective website. That should be probably the first thing you develop after you've set up your business, because if you do any marketing efforts, either traditionally through newsprint, magazines or billboards, or even new digital marketing online, you want to have a place for your customers to go to find out more information. Because oftentimes in advertisements, we're only focusing on a set niche of what maybe we do. We're not telling them everything we do necessarily in that advertisement. So you want to make sure that they have a place to go to really learn more about you. Consider your website as this, especially if you don't have a storefront, but even if you do, you want people to research and see what you're about before they come see you or give you a call. It's like your virtual storefront, and it should be laid out in a way that's similar to if you do have a brick and mortar storefront. You should have certain consistency, and the branding and the colors and the pattern, they should all kind of match, so that eventually when people see those color combinations or they see that logo out in the field, they'll be like, I know that business. They're a great business to work with. And that's why, even getting marketing materials on logoed shirts and putting vinyl decals on your car can also be an important aspect of marketing, because you're carrying forth all that consistent marketing that people are seeing you. Because the fact of the matter is, it takes 7 to 12 times of someone seeing, hearing, whatever, your message before it really soaks in and makes them purchase from you. Or sometimes maybe they're not in the market for what you sell right now, but maybe someday they will. So you want to be top of mind awareness for when that person is in the market. So the first step of an effective website is developing a mobile-friendly website for your business. The content's very important. Sometimes it's one of the harder aspects. So even if you have somebody helping you with the website, you're going to have to come up with that content. Now, they can help you make it sound pretty and look good and stuff like that, but you want to tell your story. What is your story? How does that story relate to your customers? If you have a good feel-good story that connects to people on an emotional level, that's even more powerful. Maybe you started this business out of a problem that you had seen, like a boot company. They traveled all over trying to find boots for their daughter that was graduating. They wanted a nice pair of leather boots, couldn't find them anywhere. Well, we're gonna put a boot company right here because we need one. And or maybe your story is a little bit more emotional. Maybe you had went through some emotional distress or something, and this product or service or whatever, if you have a story like that, feel free to share it with your customers, or it just makes you more connectable, more likable, makes you look human. With marketing, we feel like we're being just constantly bombarded with marketing and stuff, and it seems a little disingenuous sometimes, and so you don't want to be that way. You want to make sure that the customer has all the info that they need about you on that too. Maybe you have a FAQ site for questions that your customers often ask after you've started the business and you've ran it a while, and certain people have certain objectives or questions or whatever. You need to address those there. It could also be a way to drive traffic to your website, because we'll be talking about search engine optimization a lot when it comes to websites. And that just means putting certain things into your website that will be picked up by the search terms, like through Google and stuff like that. You could even use Google. Google has a platform for Google search terms. So you could search certain things that you think your customer would be searching for to find your services. You could see a keylogger to see how those rate, how popular they are. Of course, if they're super popular, the cost of that click word goes up for you, of course. But and it really depends on if you show up organically in the search field already for that stuff, and you could kind of play around with that. Keep in mind that anything you do to a website, like if you're trying to search engine optimize it, it takes a good 6 months before you really see the results of that too. So don't expect overnight that, why isn't people coming to me? It just takes a while to really get affected by Google. And Google's not dumb. They don't want you to use what's called black hat tricks to get people to come to your site, because they want whatever your site has to offer to be relevant to what that person is searching for. Because a lot of companies would just load websites, even behind the scenes, that we can't read, with key terms to drive people to that site. But in the long run, you're only hurting yourself by doing that. So make sure they're relevant to the content and appropriate. Think of particularly the headings on your website. Those are big search engine optimized pieces right there. So making sure the headings are going to drive people to your site. Things you put in your blog. If you do a blog on your website, that can sometimes drive people to your site, especially if you're doing a blog on maybe something that people search for a lot or have questions on.
The blogs or things like that is very tailored to the audience you're trying to attract, right? So not every single business needs to have a blog, right? No. It's just another potential tool in your marketing toolbox, really. And you got to figure out, because time and we have a limited budget, everything, you want to know what's best for your business. The other piece of it is even pictures you put on your website. Of course, beware of copyright infringement. You don't want to steal things necessarily from other sites without their permission. You can really create good content from different websites like Canva. I don't know if anybody's used Canva or PicBaby,
Wix.com. I mean, it develops my mobile site along with my regular website, so I don't have to. I have issues with it from time to time where you say, like, you have to go in and check to make sure things are working on customers' calls.
And that's the first thing you really look at is what template I want to use, because we're not Amazon. We can't afford thousands of servers to run our website. So we need a hosting site. Wix is a hosting site. Well, Wix is a platform, but they offer a hosting component. So does GoDaddy. Most of these platforms do. Now, you don't have to use their hosting partner. You can find your own if you find one cheaper or something like that. But you want to make sure you use a host. If you just use like Wix.com or WordPress.com, you can create a free website on WordPress. But the only way people are going to find you is if they're on WordPress.com and they search for something relevant to what your website's about. Because it's based on being a blog site initially. And they're not dumb, they're probably making money off the hosting aspect too. So you need a host so that your website is jeanscleaningservice.com and not jeanscleaningservice.com/WordPress or something. You don't want that because you'll never be found. So you could get a website for relatively inexpensively, maybe less than probably $300 a year. Now, there are fancier ones, like you can, if you're selling something and you want to drop ship product or something, like Shopify is great. They've got a lot more bells and whistles too that you can buy into. So, you could start with $10 a month and end up paying hundreds of dollars a month for all the bells and whistles. But those bells and whistles are bringing you sales. They're worth it. So you got to know who your target market is and know what's the best platform. I would say in my experience, WordPress is probably the best as far as do-it-yourself templates because they have more bells and whistles for you to use. But having said that, they're also more challenging to use because of all those bells and whistles. Wix, they're very easy to put together website. GoDaddy, there's other websites like that out there. Of course, you can have a professional create your website too. You need a more automated one so that when you take a cruise with one of these ladies and go on vacation, vacation, that's funny because businesses probably don't know what vacations are anymore, right? But if you get that opportunity to go, who's going to take care of the business while you're away? And some of these fancier websites can be real automated to handle situations, and then you only get notifications when need be. You can have like canned responses and stuff. So the first step is develop a mobile friendly, of course. And all these templates allow you to make it mobile friendly. You can test how quickly your website loads, because if your website does not load and all the things don't load on it within 3 seconds, they're going to back out of your website and go to the next one, which is phenomenal to me. We really do live in an ADHD world. So if you haven't maybe you have a website, you've had it for like 10 years, it's probably time to update it. We don't like flash macro media on websites anymore. It takes too long to load that stuff up. But we do want videos on our website. We just don't want macro media flash. There's other free tools you can do too. Looking at your SEO and speed, and there's some good trackers out there that are free to use.
We'll make sure to share all of these URLs after the presentation. On these slides after the next week's presentation, we'll have all these slides too.
And you could later search. Try looking up your website once you've created it. Look it up on an Apple phone. Look it up on your friend's Google phone. Look it up on a Samsung, look it up on different ways, because how it loads, it's still a computer, so it's not going to necessarily be always visually appealing. You got to look at that and make sure, what is it that your customers are seeing? It drives me nuts when they're not. Like, they want you to do something and you can't push the button because it's located, like, I think we've all been there with a frustrating website on our phones. Don't be that business. And, for some businesses, maybe we're just trying to generate leads. And websites can be a great way to do that. A lot of times you'll see this. I mean, this is not new. you'll search for something, maybe you've got some questions on some do-it-yourself type situation you're dealing with, and you find articles, but they say, give me your email and I will send you the article. Well, a good one about that is like HubSpot. If you're wanting more information on marketing, I love HubSpot. The articles on their website, oftentimes they do that though. They want to develop you as a lead, so they ask for your email. They do send you marketing materials, but they're not insane about it. And what they send you, you'll actually probably want to use, because they've got tools like social media calendars and other planners that are helpful for running your business. And obviously, you can buy into their services more too. That's what they're trying to drive the sale for. But they figure if they give you so much free stuff, you'll think, wow, these guys are smart. They could help drive my sales, and you'll want to, work with them further. Of course, some people just do slideshows or little webinars on YouTube that they post because they're going to get some traction when you watch their YouTube video or whatever, or free trials or free consults, so many hours of free consultation for you to try before you buy type of thing. So these are all things you can incorporate on your website, because a lot of these free things can create a value for your customers that they didn't necessarily feel they had before, and they appreciate that value. And these could be through blogs or just how you do your search engine optimization. You always, if you're doing an advertisement on social media, and we'll talk about more of this, of course, next week, but you're doing some advertising on social media and there's something that they need to do, the call to action is to go to your website or something to make that purchase maybe. Maybe you're advertising a pair of shoes. You should really have a landing page for some of these items. I know not all companies do that, and that's frustrating because it's like they're sold out of everything in the advertising. That always really aggravates me because you feel like you're kind of being switched and baited a little bit because they don't have what they're advertising. But if you have a service or you're trying to drive them to do something and they just go to your main website, and maybe your website's full of information, so they got to really look to find what it is you're driving them to, they're going to get tired and they're going to move away from that. So creating specific landing pages for that advertisement can be very helpful too. And that landing page should look a lot like that advertisement, so you're not feeling you're going to a totally different, unrelevant site too, because that could be very confusing to your customers. You don't want your customers confused, because then they'll end up not purchasing from you at all. You don't want to overwhelm them either, so you don't want to pack so much in your website that visually your eyes are going all over the place. From a psychological standpoint, our eyes tend to go in certain directions based on fonts, placements, colors. So use those to your advantage to create a very effective website that takes the individual through the steps that you want them to go through. Let's see. I don't want to go too far into this. So, okay, we'll just go. Title tags. We talked about anchor links, body, everything downloadable, blogs and title tags. They should have elements of what people are searching for to be relevant so that you're found. And your title tags. So on Google, even how you show up in the search engine is important. And you can change that from behind the scenes on your website. They call them title tags or meta title tags. That's what shows up, that's what you see. And all of these things are things that you can see. And you want it to be relevant. You want it to be, because oftentimes if that tag doesn't look like what we're searching for, we'll just go to the next one. And maybe it was relevant. It's just your words didn't have the most effective words on it. Because you know, if you just leave it up to Google, they just pull it, and they're not always right, because it's a computer. So you can definitely look into that.
A question about your funnels. I've tried those before. I never had much luck. Don't you have to like drive people to the funnel?
Yes, and that is the hard part, because at that point, you probably got to spend a little money on like Google advertising. I don't know who that was. Google advertising and or social media advertising to drive them to your site. Very rarely can you get there organically anymore. It's getting harder and harder. I mean, your blog, if you're lucky and your blogs are showing up as a relevant search term when people are searching that, then you're very lucky. So yeah, there's other steps in that funnel to drive people there. It's not a matter, again, it's like a storefront. If you build it, they won't just come to it. You have to take steps to make them come to it. And that's the hard part.
Only one side plug. We announced it in February, but we haven't really pushed it since then. But the chamber paid for the highest tier of our database software to expand the options that you guys all have on your own information pages on our website. You now can have video, images, bullet point lists, full hours of operation. It's allowing you to really flesh it out. And I found that when I do Google searches, just I test it every so often, our listing sometimes is actually tracking higher than your own website. We have a really good relationship with our database software. They're always trying to SEO the heck out of their section. So if you haven't taken the time to relook at that, your login, which most of you probably forgot all this, there's a member login button on our website. If you just use the email that we've been sending you stuff as your username, that's what it is. And if you've never gone there before, the default password is capital MACC, Community and Chamber of Commerce. Capital MACC. And if you have any issues logging into it, then just reach out to us, of course. But take a second to kind of look at that and see what you can flesh out. You can now have a full search engine, kind of like a tag that shows up on the descriptions, on the Google searches. You can have that now. There's a lot of cool, anyway, it's some cool stuff that, and all that kind of helps tie and bring both your website and our information page for you up higher in Google searches to mount for some folks. And that's again, there's no cost. We get it all free. This is general default settings for every single member now has access to that. So I would encourage you, if you have time, to spend a little time. Whenever you upgrade your website, think about upgrading those pages too.
Yeah, take advantage of all the perks and benefits of your chamber membership, including networking, because it's only as good as what you put into that membership too. So, you know, after you develop the website, the next step is to develop your social media outlets. We're not going to spend too much time on that, but you want to have it be engaging. And, you know, like we said, you can't do a lot organically, but you can do a little. You know, making sure you're on those free directories, making sure you're on the free review sites, having a social media channel, those all tie into, you know, what you find in your search engine. So make sure you utilize those as much as you can. And have someone maybe take a second look at it. I'm happy to help you review what you're already doing, kind of give you a checkup of sorts. And
I just want to say that blog posts are great for an older generation, but if you want to target anyone that they're like 39, you're going to want to utilize social media more, especially with hashtags. That's where you're going to show up in their support page when they're included ads, like shopping tips or shopping tips. Like, well, you can't necessarily expect like an overnight thing. That's still going to probably be better if you're trying to target anyone on their LinkedIn.
most certainly, most certainly.
I think next week is going to cover a lot of that, kind of how to utilize, because it's a whole minefield of stuff. And that's a really good comment. Touch on, I think, a lot next week as well, right?
Yeah. We're gonna kind of stop here, so if anybody has any questions or concerns or comments, feel free. And if you could just, for clean house purposes, if you could just fill out that evaluation, I'd appreciate it. It's just our little bureaucratic thing. And if you haven't signed in yet over here, please do that before you leave. And I welcome you guys to come back next week.
Yes, thank you again, Ms. Lambert. Thank you very much.